If you think neutral is a boring word and you just want your skull to rattle with the amount of bass that's in an IEM, look no further. Let's talk about it. Hello audiophiles, it's me, your boy Joe, back again with another video, and as you can see, we have a little bit of a spruce up in our setup, and we're going to be talking about a super flagship IEM, the Thieaudio Origin. So a quick disclaimer is that the Thieaudio Origin is given to me by Pritham from the audio store. Do check out the Thieaudio Origin down in the links below. Of course, they are affiliate links, so which means I'll be getting a little bit of a commission from sales which is from that link, but it is really good and it helps the channels. As usual, no biases in the review whatsoever. All thoughts and opinions are my own, but spoiler alert, it's really good. Without any further ado, let's get into it. So a quick thing about the unboxing experience, I actually don't have the box for the Thieaudio Origin. It's given to me by Pritham from the box itself because this is actually his unit. He's rocking these things as his daily driver. So a huge thanks to him for giving me his actual unit so that I could check it out for review. But I can talk about the build quality of the Thieaudio Origin itself. If you do notice there is a different cable that I'm using with it, I do want to talk about the other cable as well. This cable is also a good cable, but let's just get into it, shall we? So first things first, let's talk about the specifications of the Thieaudio Origin. This thing packs a lot of things. It has a bone conduction driver, of course, and it has a dual dynamic driver. It has 2 ESTs and 4 BAs, if I'm correct. As for the price, this thing as of now costs $850 over in the Thieaudio store, and in the audio store for India, it is around like 81,999. First and foremost, the shells are super pretty. Here, have a closer look at them. As you can see, this one is the Universal Edition. It has a kind of blue, starry, night-like essence to it, and it is handmade. If you do notice some videos from the Thieaudio guys, they do hand make this thing, which is a really delicate process, and I do admire the craftsmanship of this thing. And you can get custom shells if you want to. Over at the Theo store, you could change the face plates. You could have it in whatever way, shape, or form. There's plenty to choose from there. Of course, it's going to be higher priced, but yeah, that's how it is. I don't know if you're able to see it, but you can see a small circular element which is at the back of that IEM. That is the bone conduction driver part. So that is the one which will be ringing in your ears once the bass starts pounding. Like I said, I don't have the other elements for the unboxing, but I can show you the Thieaudio's stock cable, which is the Elite Noir cable of Thieaudio. The cable itself is really good. It has a tad bit of a stiffness to it, and it has a rubber texture. It's pretty smooth. It kind of reminds me of the Code 23 like cables in that kind of smooth rubbery texture and that little stiffness factor to it. This one is a 4.4 connection with the Thieaudio branding on top. Pretty good, very thick with 2 C's in fact, and we have a Y split. The Y split also has a bit of branding on it, and it has some nice shine. And finally, we have a chin slider which works, but sometimes slides off position if you are using it, but it's a working functional chin slider. I like that about it. And then finally to a 2-pin connector. Now the cable itself is a pretty thick cable. It's a tad too thick for my liking, but hey, it's a very nice cable nonetheless. I kind of like that the Thieaudio Origin went for a good cable, if you know what I mean, with some other brands at around this price point having pretty bad cable. Thieaudio Origin kind of went all out on the cable. So cable quality, I'm not going to complain about it. It's pretty good. It's just for my liking, it's a bit too thick, and it has that kind of rubbery texture to it, so that's what I'm not liking about it. But that's just my personal preferences. As a cable, it's pretty good. As for me, I think I should be addressing the elephant in the room. What is this cable? So as for this cable is actually from Nostalgia Audio. This cable is called the Unicorn Prestige, and this was given to me by a very good friend, and he's kind of letting me use this for the review purpose. So a huge shout out to him. You know who I'm talking about. Thanks a lot, my dear friend, for letting me use this cable, and here's the review for this cable as well. As for the Unicorn Prestige, it has that slight kind of smooth texture as similar to the Elite Noir, but you could see that it has a really good purple and white theme aesthetics going on with it. And as for me, I really like any kind of purple design. That's really good, and that's why I'm using this along with the Thieaudio Origin. It's a 2-pin connection. You can see its logo in here, and it has the R and the L marked in the back, so you know which one you're using, with a very, very comfortable ear hook. And then that goes on for this Very gorgeous looking Y split and chin slider. I would show you a real close up of it. Showing it in here really doesn't give justice to how wonderful and pretty this thing looks. The chin slider is actually inbuilt into the Y split, which you click out and then use. A very, very unique element which most of the companies don't do at this point. It also has the nostalgia written on it. I really can't show close-ups of it, so the pictures will do for that. But it's a really functional chin slider. It never slid off while I'm using it, so perfect positioning in there. And the chin slider is having a very good theme, which is matching, of course, because it clicks off the Y split. As for the Y split itself, you can see that it has these metallic elements to it, and it has a really good shine, and this central part actually spins. So it's not a bug, it's a feature. I was really worried when I started seeing this thing spinning in the middle. I was like, what? Did I break it or something? But no, that's actual feature, which will then be lining up to the words unicorn and prestige. So that's pretty cool. That's a nice good touch on the Y split, which then finishes off to a 4.4 or a 3.5. If I do remember correctly, you could set it in here, but it is not a modular cable, so that is a little bit of a bummer considering that this is one of the flagship price points and they're not having a modular connection. Nevertheless, this is a very good 4.4 plug, very premium. It has the same kind of synergy and the theming as of the 2-pin connection, which is in here. So everything, all in all, perfect match for its own design aesthetics to it. I have no qualms and complaints about the design of the Unicorn Prestige. So enough talking about the IEMs, let's go for a fit test. So one thing to note, Thieaudio Origin is a pretty much of a chonky boy, and you do have to go for the best set of ear tips if you want to have that perfect match to it. As for me, I am using the DD Hi-Fi ST35 ear tips. It's a very good blend of a kind of spin fit / narrow bore style ear tips to it, so it's very nice. That's what I'm using for this, for the perfect fit and seal. Here's the right side, and here's the left side. So fit-wise, it's actually pretty comfortable. I'm not having any issues, but I do have a little bit of a fatigue after, like, let's say the 2.5 hour mark, because this is a chonky boy after all. I have to then remove it, just freshen up my ears a little bit, and then put it back in. So even for my ears, which is kind of like from medium to large, I would say, the Thieaudio Origin is kind of a snug fit. I would not say it's a bad fit, it's a snug fit. Keep that in mind for people with smaller ears. This could be some kind of a fit issue for those of you who are having real small ears and you want to listen to bone conduction based drivers. Because another thing is, like I said, the bone conduction part is at the back of it, so that back must be touching your ears if you want to feel that full bone conduction effect. If that thing is like just flying outside and then only the nozzle is sitting inside your ears, you're not going to get that bone conduction full effect. So with the IEMs put in, it's time to move on to the sound impressions. So as usual, I'll be kicking off my sound impressions with the frequency response graph of the Thieaudio Origin. Once again, as usual, let me tell you with a quick disclaimer, frequency response graphs do not show you the whole picture at all. In fact, it gives you a little bit of a hint as to what the signature could sound like, but one thing's for sure, bone conductions would not, I repeat, will not be shown in a frequency response graph as good as you intended to show. Keep that in there. Like I said, a huge block of salt in whatever I'm talking with respect to the frequency response graph. But my ears is what I'm listening to. I will tell you in that aspect mainly. So with all that said, let's look at the graph. You can see that we have a very, very good set of sub bass, which then goes down to a good clean mids, and it smoothly goes up to a sense of treble and air overall. Now, this Thieaudio Origin, by all means, it's a super fun type IEM. It has a huge bass going for it. In this one, the bone conduction drivers is of two types. Either it will enhance bass or it will be made to enhance the mid-range. The Thieaudio Origin cranked it up all the way to the bass side. So the bass is super thumpy. The bass is incredible. And that bass is very clean. It doesn't bleed so much as you would expect it to be. In fact, the mids are very clean because of the ESTs present and the BAs present. Thieaudio really cooked with this one. So the Origin is really good in the sense of clean mids and clean bass. The bass is punchy. I can't tell what else. This bass is monstrous amount of bass. It really cranks up to the level that you would enjoy it to be. As for the vocals are pretty clean actually, so it's made to sound nice and crisp and clear despite the immense amount of bass which is present. So this Thieaudio is by all means, I would say, more similar to a V-shaped IEM than what you're seeing in here because of the amount of bass and the amount of treble importance that's giving. And by all means, the treble is non-peaky. I had no issues with any kinds of sibilance factor. I even tried high frequency instruments in it, and those high frequency instruments played off well. It had no issues whatsoever in rendering that high frequency instruments along with that awesome, super visceral, guttural bass presence. What I would say that the Thieaudio Origin is to be is that it's something that you want to have as a fun sounding IEM. Now, by means of that, it is not something that would be playing like, let's say, in a back end. So if you're trying to do work, the Thieaudio Origin just grabs your attention because the amount of bass and the amount of treble that it's giving in, I doubt you'll be able to focus on any kind of work or activities that you're doing when this Thieaudio kicks in with its full bass. So it is something that you want to actively listen to. I won't believe this is something that you want to put on your ears and do some other work. So that is something that I would like to point out with the Thieaudio Origin. Now, with all that said, let's play some songs and give you song impressions. Before we get to the song impressions, quick note to shout out is that all of the songs that I'm listening to, I'm going to be giving it to you in the form of a curated Apple Music playlist. That playlist is available down in the description below that like button. So you could check out all the songs that I'm listening to. So kicking things off, we're actually having this particular song from Lore. Now, I say this particular song because I have no idea what it means, and I don't want to butcher myself with the Chinese elements which are in there. So, yay. The reason I picked this song is because it's actually a really good way to test out the origin. This one is kind of dubstep glitch style music and it's amazing. It's a Chinese dubstep style music. And I say music because it's mostly like musical elements in here, but there are some vocals which is present, which is amazing. Okay. There is a Chinese sitar, guitar, I don't know what to call that thing, but then that one is in full force. The bass like revels apart in here. And as I expect, the bass is amazing. The bass power, the bass thump. This is what I call the benchmark. This is what I would set the standards of how a bass meant to be. That kind of visceral bass that you feel as well as hear that envelops around you. That is amazing bass that's coming with the Origin, but that bass is not ruining any of the other frequencies or any of the other instruments. Here there's a guitar, there's also a flute, there's some vocals. The bass importance is there. Of course, that bass is enveloping around you, but the guitar's plucking sounds so natural and very clean as well. The vocals is also not getting drowned by any of the other instruments. So that's really good, setting the vocals forward as well as giving that bass presence. You could feel that subwoofer level kind of bass which is thumping inside your mind when you're listening with the Origin. There are also points, mainly with this particular song, above the 50-second mark, there'll be a booming bass, actually booming not in the bad sense, but then it's a booming bass, and that booming bass is really hitting you. It hits you in the center of your head when you try to listen to that bass. By all means, this is not for people who are bass shy. If people who are bass sensitive and they're feeling like overwhelming, which kind of would be at this point, then I wouldn't suggest Origin on any of them. So this is something for people who wants to enjoy that bass to its max. This is totally out there for bass heads. I'm going to give it that right now. This is an IEM which is totally out there for the bass head territory. Overall, really good music to listen to, rendered perfectly well with the Thieaudio Origin. So before we get to the next song, I just wanted to have a quick talk about the drivability. I think I've kind of missed it in this point, but as for drivability, as you could expect, the Thieaudio Origin really needs a lot of power in order to shine to its fullest potential. As for me, I'm using the Fosse ZH3. It's running it perfectly fine because Fosse is rated for very high power. I've also tried it on the iBasso DX320. That is working pretty well. I have tried this on smaller DACs like the Snowski Melody, and given that particular DAC, I would say that the power is kind of on the low end. When you get lesser power out of it, you don't get the best performance for the bone conduction driver. So the bone conduction driver's vibrating effect would not come out very clean if you don't have enough power for the Thieaudio. So do keep in mind, this thing needs a lot of power to shine, and only with that kind of power you get that perfect bass quality that you expect. So moving to the next song, we have Just a Boy by Drinsane. And now this one is a really good female vocal, and it has pretty nice, good, modest amount of instruments. So that's the nice aspect about this song. It's good, a low amount of instruments, but then all of them coming out really well with the vocals that's present. So that's very nice. And as usual, bass is knocked out of the park with the Thieaudio Origin. It has a very clean bass. You could feel the bass texture. You could also listen to that pitch. The tone, though it's really vibrating inside your mind, you do hear the tone and you could understand which tone is being played very well. So this is a bass guitar. I think it's like a very deep bass guitar. Picked up really well, and I could feel each and every tone that's rendered. And as for the vocals, once again, the vocals are not drowning down by any of the other instruments. The vocals are very clean. This is female vocals. I could understand each and every part that she's singing in there, so that's really good. It's not drowned down by the sheer amount of bass which is present already, but even though that bass is present, the kind of sound staging is there. It's big and it is a bit far away from you so that you can hear the vocals and the vocals are coming forward. That's the kind of staging I would keep. It's like a kind of orchestral style staging where the bass rendering instruments is kept a little bit away from you, but all the vocals and everyone in the forward layering, that's kept in front of you. That is how I would picture this Thieaudio Origin to be. Rendered perfectly well, really good song, and very nice. So the last song that we're going to be looking is Adieu, je t'aime. I hope I'm saying that properly. It's from a French artist, Why Care. Now, this one is more of a laid-back style of music, so I want to see how the Origin performs with songs which are, not bass-focused or like dubstep and disco style. So this one is more of a French pop style, and that is really rendered pretty well. So in terms of bass, I would say that the bass is rendered using a bass guitar, so that's pretty good. I would say it's a little bit blunt. I would not call it blunt, but then I think that's how the song is meant to be portrayed in. It's not giving a very sharp bass for this particular song because there's not that much bass focused instruments in here, so that's how I would consider it to be. But vocals, once again, very clear. This is male vocals, but even then with that male vocal, it's very clear. There's actually a lot of like clapping style instruments in here, and there's a whistle rendered perfectly well. It's actually isolated from the remaining instruments, and that kind of clarity is present for that whistle as well as the claps. Claps, whistles, ticks and drums, so high ticks, so those ones are rendered perfectly well with the Origin. Overall, I would say that for regular songs, it does give that kind of warm feeling altogether. So if it doesn't have that much bass heavy instruments in there, the bass, that bone conductor, is kind of just giving that overall warmth sensation to you. So with that warmth sensation, the remaining instruments are playing their role. So people who like that kind of warmth in their music will find that the Origin is really suited to their kind of liking. Alright, so what are my overall impressions with the Thieaudio Origin? Well, first and foremost, the shell is a real beauty. The shell is very nice. In terms of comfort, like I said, it's the chonky shell. So it is pretty comfortable for me to wear. It has a very snug fit, but I start to get a little bit tiring after like the 2.5 hour mark. So that's when I start to take it out and just rest my ears a little bit. But in terms of overall comfort, really good. In terms of the wire, like I said, the Thieaudio Elite Noir, I believe this is, really good. In terms of overall sonic performance, the Prestige wire is, of course, the better wire out there. But I'm not having any qualms about the Thieaudio Noir, other than the fact it's a tad too stiff to my liking, but that's more of a preference aspect than a person who is using wires. It's an okay cable. It is pretty much behaved when you are using it, provided the stiffness is kind of making it to stand up at times. Good cable nonetheless, so I have no qualms with the cable. In this case, when I'm talking about the Prestige Unicorn cable, this is a really good cable. It is also tad on the stiffer side, but it's a bit more well behaved than the Elite Noir for that aspect. And in terms of styling and overall aesthetics, beautiful. I can't tell anything about the Prestige cable other than the fact that it's sheer beauty. And in terms of sonic performance, it's actually having a really good performance across the board. It makes the treble a bit more tasty, I would say, and makes the mids a bit more cleaner, and it makes the bass a little bit smoother as well. But with regards to the Origin, it's just complementing the Origin. I have also tried the Elite Noir. Elite Noir is, I would say, really close to the Prestige, but Prestige is a little bit better. Who is going to enjoy the Thieaudio Origin? Well, first and foremost, as a bass head, it's out there. It's perfectly there. plenty of bass, but that bass is not going to drown the remaining instruments at all. So it has a very good quality bass as well as quantity of. So it has that going for it. The mids are really clean. The trebles are out there. The trebles are perfect. As for a person who's enjoying that vocals along with the immense amount of bass, I find it to be perfectly fine. Maybe I would say, if I were to nitpick on it, people who are more treble focused and people who wants that kind of treble signature and that spice will not be getting it from the Origin. And people who wants a neutral signature certainly should not go anywhere near the Origin for its amount of fun aspect. So it's a fun IEM made to be fun and made to listen with that aspect alone. I've tried this on travels, and while I'm sitting in a car, its passive isolation is perfect, and then that kind of bass rumble is amazing while listening during travels. But I find that when I'm working and if I'm doing something actively and then I'm listening with the Origin's bass is actually just getting in the way of my work. So that is why I told you, if it's more active listening, you would enjoy the Origin. If it's a more passive listening experience, if you want something to listen in the background, lo-fi music or something like that, then probably you should look for something which is more neutral-ish or something which is a bit more smoothened and mellow overall. As for me, if you can't tell by now, this thing deserves a 5 out of 5 star in terms of my rating for its basshead clarity. Its basshead performance is so good, and it is something that is excellent for anyone who wants a true bone conduction implementation. This is one of the best bone conduction implementations I have ever tried. So that's pretty much it for my review of the Thieaudio Origin. Do let me know, what do you think about the Origin? Are you having it? Is it similar to whatever I'm telling you about the Origin? Do let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And as usual, if you do like my videos, give me a thumbs up. If you don't like my videos, give me a thumbs down. I don't know. And this is Joe, and I would see you in the next video. Peace.